So this is our after 30. We love this conversation so much, we're just going to keep going. So what I was just saying, if you listen to the last episode, is about, making that decision to create a business or fill the gap between hobby and business. So what I was just saying to Chloe was money can be a huge thing for women in their business. However, if we've made the decision to create a business and have really sat with ourselves and gone, you know what, I'm doing this, I'm going in, I'm going to put one step in front of the other, then these things will come up and we have to face them the way we face, however we personally face things, one step at a time, whether it's by yourself, sitting with your own stories, writing it out, yelling it out, crying it out, working it out, whether it's with a mentor, whether it's with a friend, whether it's with your husband, whatever. Like, just because you've decided to take on a business, it's equally as important for it to be sustainable mentally and emotionally as well. Like you said, you're stuck in the middle of nowhere with a flat tire. You're devastated because you know the effort that this mum has put into organising her farmer husband. The weather's right, the day's right, the kids are organised. You've driven a couple of hours to get there. It's not just that you couldn't do the shoot. It's that then you had to go back. You had to drive another few hours to pick up your car, to get the tyre fixed, to reorganise the shoot, because then you're going to have to drive back there. I'm sure you haven't charged her, you've given her one price. So that one price now is covering essentially 2 shoots. And then you've got double the expenses for childcare and your whole other day now of organising another shoot for the one price.
Well, and I was working it out because by the time I did the drive there, blah, blah, the next day I was organising the tyre, the next day, and also I was mentally exhausted physically. And then the next day I had to drive back and go and get it. And then I'll still have to go and do the shoot. And I'll also then have the editing. So actually what should have been a 1-day job will be like 5 or 6 days.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to change. I mean, my gut says I actually want to give her a free shoot, but that, that would be, and also it's shifted things in the relationship. I mean, she's been unbelievably kind and generous and understanding. When you live where we live, flat tires are a thing.
Yeah.
But absolutely, I think there are all those elements, and it's such a reminder to go, all of those times. And actually that was a real, it was a really hard one for me as well when I was going through this last year of my business, of going, how I have compromised my worth out of choice, out of desperation, sometimes out of need, out of all of the things of going, okay, well, I did this extra and I did this extra and I did this extra. And it's a bit like when I wrote my book, we talked about how many copies I gave, must have been like 200 copies away, and that probably basically consumed much of my profit. And because when I did it, I wasn't in that business mode thinking. I was in my essentially sort of off period. When I moved to New Zealand, I stopped the client work. I did that and I said, right, I'm going to write my book, but I didn't sit down and write a business plan for my book. And one thing that I was going to mention while you were talking is that the one person around me, I was actually having a little bit of mentoring with Beck Griffith, and she was amazing. But I wasn't necessarily talking money with her. I was talking about marketing, and I was doing all that. But the one person that was around that was my husband, and my gut said, I really want him to help me, but probably my aura and everything else was very defensive, because actually talking about money with men for me is a real issue. It's a real wall. It's like you said, it comes with a lot of wounds. It comes with a lot of pain and bad memories and all that sort of stuff, a lot of trauma. So actually, I feel one of the things that I've done this year that has been such a revelation, a release, is hiring a female business mentor.
Yeah.
Because it's a safe space. It's a
Yes.
safe space. It's a
Yeah.
no judgment space. It's a, I understand, but also I'm going to push you,
Yes.
but I understand.
Yeah.
And that is so liberating. And it's
Yeah.
also the difference having a female business mentor is that you need to someone that's serious about business. You do.
Yeah.
And that's why I get nervous about so many people offering mentoring, because there's, you just make a smart choice. That's what I'm going to say. Try.
Yeah.
Find someone that fits with you, fits with your thinking, fits with your location as well, potentially. Doesn't have to be city, could be country, could be hemisphere, or that understands where you are, for whatever reason. But also you need someone strong, and you need someone that is going to help you with objectives and clarity and accountability and all of those things. Because honestly, there have been so many times since I started. So when did I train? I know I was always trying to think about this, 2010. But I'm like, okay, so all of those times, 13 years, I've I really want my husband to help me. I really want my husband to help me. And he's never helped me. But he did a couple of times, but not more with IT. But I was just like, but the reality is there's a good chance that I wouldn't have listened to him or taken it on board or sat in this discomfort all the time.
Yeah.
And exactly that. It's understanding your business, but understanding yourself and how. And actually, my business mentor recently said to me, because I was like, once I've got this structure and once I've got this structure, everything will be fine. And she said to me, Chloe, your brain is so multifaceted, which is very polite. Your brain is so energized and organic that actually, even if you feel like even if you build structure, potentially you will rebel against it, or you will.
You know what I love, instead of structure is very important, but you know what I kind of place before structure? The culture of your business.
Yes, that's so good. Yeah.
Structure is very important, of course.
Yeah.
It can also be quite limiting and it depends on you as your own businesswoman, because I have this quote that I say is, your business is how you create it. Every choice is yours, which can be really empowering, which can also be really disabling depending where you are, because you're like, I don't know what choice I want to make. And that's when I'm forever like, okay, so let's look at what you're going through. And then I ask a million questions. But for me, it's the culture of your business. What's the space that you're building? Like, who do you want around you? Like you just said, you have brought in a female mentor or coach, and, it's surrounding yourself with those people that align with you. And that she obviously aligns with you because you've hired her, but she's also, like you said, you need someone that's going to hold you accountable, that's going to call you on your shit, that's going to support you and cheer you on, and, keep that sort of flow and that real, okay, you bring it in a bit, like you're getting a little bit, sometimes we can get really excited and get really far out and lose sight of what our goals are, because you're like, oh, that's nice and shiny over there, we'll try that. And that's where your structure comes in. But it's also that culture of, what's my values? What's important to me in who are my clients in my business? It's great to work with these clients that will pay money, but maybe they don't, maybe they're just like, just take the photo, love, just take the photo. And they actually just are like, they don't care about the connection, or they don't care about the they're just like, just take the photo, give me the prints, and I'm done. You know, like, and that's the culture I'm kind of talking about. Like, who are you bringing into your business?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love, like, for me, a big goal of mine and part of my culture is I want to collect, I say, as many accents as I can. So I'm kind of a bit weird when it comes to goals. I really, like, obviously I have financial goals, but I'm like, okay, so that's cool. And I sort of say to the universe, to the mother nature, whoever, show me how fun it can be. Show me how many accents I can bring into my business. Show me how many cool photos I can take that will get me to this financial goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it kind of makes it a bit fun and a bit creative and a bit quirky.
Yeah.
But each time I get like a new accent or I love the photo that I've taken, I'm like, yeah, cool. Like that's getting me one step closer to my financial goals.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm the same. I have a lot of worry around money. And if I focus purely on having, like, I used to have a post-it note on my computer of, okay, you need to make this amount every month. And often I would avoid my whole office
because of that one post-it
because
note.
of that one post-it note. Seriously, I would be like,
yeah,
I've made $5 towards that amount.
Yeah.
Like, and it was disabling for me to have this post-it note there going, okay, this is the amount that you need to make to survive and feed your children and pay your mortgage and, you know, pay your car loan off or whatever. Whereas when I kind of, like we were saying in the last episode, got a bit creative and going, okay, so I need to get rid of that. I know that I know that I need to make that amount of money. How can I look at it in a different way?
Yeah. Yeah. And it also circles back to our conversation about, is anyone listening?
Yes.
Because, and it feels a little bit confrontational, that question, is anyone listening? And we didn't necessarily mean it like that. It's really about understanding how many, so there is the marketing sales formula of someone needs to see something 8 times before they buy it.
Yep.
And that's exactly the same as our Instagram, as our marketing, emails, all of those things. Although I am feeling a little bit overwhelmed by emails at the moment. I don't know about you. But it's coming up to Christmas. And so there are lots of things in there anyway. But again, it's one of those, I love that creative way of thinking about your goals, because like you say, because I have my little spreadsheet now, my month, and I have my what's coming in, what's going out on what days. It's very organized. It feels quite elementary, but I absolutely love it.
Yep.
And I cross things off when I've paid it, because that's how I work. I'm a moleskin, and I have my diary and I have my lists, and I love crossing things off. And so now that's moved into my financial side as well. But also, it's like you say, you know, the weeks tick past, the days tick past, and maybe rather than say I need to make $1,000 this week, you say, okay, I need to show up on Instagram 5 times, and I need to invest an hour making something and sharing the process of it, or I need to make, you know, I have been in, it's not sales jobs, but they, you know, when you get there and the boss says, okay, you need to make 10 cold calls a day or whatever, that, you know, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be cold calls. It doesn't need to be in the old days, get the yellow pages out. Sounds ironic now. But now it's, you know, meet someone for a coffee, have a conversation, and nurture a business contact. Like you say, it can be so fun. Imagine, say, okay, my plan for 2024 is I'm going to have 52 coffees with business people.
Yeah.
How cool.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to, I've got these little postcards of the Waitaki, that I've made up. And do you know, one of my ideas is every time I have an interaction with someone, when I go somewhere or I pop into a shop, that I'm like, imagine if I then sent a postcard saying, thanks very much, I love your shop. I was in and we had a really lovely conversation, but I never get around to doing it. But, you know, and I have all of these ideas. Imagine if I sat down, and that's what I was going to say as well, is one thing. And the last time I wrote a really, really detailed business plan was in 2011, 2012, no, it wasn't. It was 2011. It was the end of my master's. The final thing we had to do, I probably talked about this before. The final thing we had to do was write a business plan. That was the business part of it. Having had all these conversations, amazing conversations with all sorts of photographers, editors, gallery owners, newspaper editors, all of these people. That was the amazing part of the masters. And then we built our business plan. And it is the most liberating thing. And you think that it's going to be the most confining thing, but it's the most liberating thing, because you do the work. And you think about the year, and then you just go and do it, rather than every week. Cindy and I used to talk about this, and we used to go, we need to stop trying to reinvent the wheel. We need to stop trying to reinvent the wheel. And because that's what we as creatives naturally do. We naturally do that because we are in that curious, questioning, oh, well, that didn't quite take off the minute that I shared it. Maybe I need to come up with something else. And we also, like you say, we get attracted to that new, exciting, shiny thing. So we go, okay, so I'm going to think about this. And you have all these millions of ideas, but you haven't allowed that one to take hold because you haven't invested the time on a constant 8 times basis, or a constant, 6 months basis. It's a bit like you open a cafe, and the first 6 months you might not make any money, or the first year you might not make any money, because but it's the long game. It's the long game. It's that gap of having the vision of making. And that's, I guess, why a number of photographers, it's that transition of, okay, well, I still need to keep that job to be, support, and,
And also, when you make that decision to go, right, I'm building my business, I'm creating a business, this is going to be my thing. You put it out there, and your friends and your family and their sort of contacts, they'll be like, oh, fabulous, I know you. Oh, I'll get you to take my photo. Great. And so you might have 6 or 12 months booked out of family and friends, and then their friends, and then it kind of dies off a bit, because you're like, oh, great, well, I've done everyone. And then it comes to the hard work of like, oh, I need to find people that I don't know that are interested in my work. Because you can get caught up in those first few months of the excitement of, great, my business is really, it's getting going, and it's, I'm taking all these photos. And then we can get into the almost comfort of, oh, they'll tell their friends. And then maybe we forget to build our email list, or we don't even think of it, or we don't talk about it on social media, and we don't share the sessions, or we just assume that everyone on the internet knows that we've got a photography business, and we don't talk about it. And we don't put in our boundaries of, okay, so I work these, like, these are when my session's available. This is my price, because maybe Aunt Judy has talked you down a few $100s and she only paid you minimum. And you kind of go, oh, well. And then when all of that kind of starts to shift and change, and then you maybe get 1 or 2 people that you don't know, then all of these other emotions come up of like, oh, how does my art translate when I'm not taking photos of people that I love? And then you question that, and then you question your price, and then you get scared, because then you're like, oh God, are people going to like that on Instagram? And I haven't built my email list. And that's when the hard work starts. And that's when you have to go, oh no, that's right, I'm building a business. So this is what I have to sort out.
Yeah.
This is what I've got to think about. These are the things that I have to, sit down and go, okay, I'm committed to my business. Now we get to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's always changing.
Yeah.
And then it turns into that, like, you do build it up, and then people do become repeat clients. And then you will get someone who had a shoot 5 years ago and then they want another one. But you have to get to that point by being committed to your business and remembering it's a long game.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I also feel exactly like you just said, how it shifts. Actually, there's one thing doing a business plan for your business, but in many ways, it should be redone every year.
Yes. Of course.
Yeah.
I come back to, what's your why? Like, why are you doing it? Ask these questions. Like, I've got hundreds of questions. But it's like, that's your North Star.
Yeah.
Or that's your compass. Or you could call it anything, a map. You're starting here, you want to be here, and you've just got to work out the route to get there. And it's like we were saying, like, it's being within those boundaries, but it's also allowing opportunity and creativity and play and new people to come in. And as always on social media, you never know who is actually paying attention.
No.
It could be someone that has never liked a post, that has never commented, that has zero visibility, like, from you, and then they book your most expensive package.
Yeah.
And it happens, and it's because a lot of people just maybe they're paying attention, but maybe they just sit and watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more, because this year has absolutely shown that to me. Receiving that email literally almost a year ago in early January, from Nikon, or from Nikon's agency. I was like, I mean, I know I'm a Nikon creator here in New Zealand, but they aren't connected. A lot of people saw the job that I was hired to do for that lens, and it was an assumption that it was associated, but actually it was totally unassociated. And to have that moment when someone like that contacts you and says, we see your creativity, we see the way we see that, all of that stuff, and we want you to do this job. I was like, okay, so I am always about saying believe in the universe, but now I'm like, believe in the universe, because that's why. And I had shared before my designs and my words saying, keep doing what you love, because you never know who's falling in love with it too. And that really is less about likes and followers, more about investment and appreciation and support and all of those things, and opportunity. I mean it in that sense, rather than, and that's how I see it anyway. But I think that it's really it's exactly circling back to the beginning, because we might need to wrap up, because we've almost done two half an hours. But it's really that intention setting, which is exactly what we were talking about in the previous episode, in that intention of creating and showing up and doing the work and forming it as a practice. But this is sort of next level, as in intention setting with your business, and carving out, if that gap isn't there, but it needs to be there, you need it to be there for whatever reason. For me, it was this year particularly, it was largely financial. That gap, I had to force it wide open and just go, I am making this work. I am making the what did I share yesterday? Was it yesterday, that saying, before the old me was happy with breadcrumbs, and now I want the whole bakery.
Yeah, saw that.
I was like, it popped up on my Instagram, and absolutely laughed out loud because I was like, that is
Yep.
exactly where I'm at. That
Yep.
is so where I'm at. Because in years gone past, I'm like, okay, I got to try, messaging from your toilet, writing blog posts on while you're sitting on the toilet. I mean, let's be honest, how many women do that? Or,
No,
taking
I
that
don't do that.
you can't do that.
No.
Sitting at like in the car, you've dropped off someone, or and before you go inside, before the cat wants some food, or the need to empty the and you sit in the car for 10 minutes. Like I still do it, but I'm done.
Yep. And that just comes back to like having boundaries, taking your business seriously, taking yourself seriously. Like if you need to go to the toilet, leave your phone in the kitchen. Give yourself 5 minutes. It's like when the kids come and knock on the door. Like that, as soon as you said that, I'm like, no. If you need to go to the toilet and wee, you go and wee by yourself. Don't let anyone interrupt that. Have your boundaries, love. Have your boundaries.
Does it? Because now I feel like I'm a crazy person.
No. Have your boundaries. If you need to wee, you go wee. And that's it. That's important for me, is like boundaries, but more for my like mental, emotional, or my health. Because from working shift work, and you literally, like I've missed out on Christmases, I've missed out on Easters, I've missed out on sleep, I've missed out on putting my boys to bed. That's why one of my biggest goals was always have dinner with my family. I've missed out on probably 80% of dinners with my family. And so my boundaries are like rock solid. Mm. I'm like, if I need to sit and have dinner with my family, that is what is happening. I will carve out time elsewhere if there's something that I need to do for my business.
Yeah.
And that's the responsibility we have to take. Like there's a page in my book that says you are the most important person in your life. Mm. The amount of controversy that book has created is hilarious.
What, and that page?
Yeah. So it shows me just like how women put everybody, everything, every job, everything before themselves. Mm. But it's like, if you don't look after yourself, no one else is can do what you can do. Mm.
I actually have lost a friendship through that. My friend, who I've known since I was about 11, we've been really close, and I met up with her 5 years ago, and I was talking about what I cook at home. And I said, well, my husband eats this and my children eat this. And then so I just like, and she said, but what about you and your health and what you should eat? And I'm like, well, I haven't got time, and I haven't got and I was basically saying, I'm at the bottom of the pile and I'm not prepared, and I haven't got the energy, and I haven't got the emotional capacity to bring myself up. And we actually had a big tearful, me being in tears, argument, and we're not really speaking still because I was in that headspace of I'm not important. And she was kicking me as my friend, as someone that loved me and has always shown up for me and always been my black and white friend and always been my, fuck the grey, excuse my language.
Yeah.
She's like, you matter. Your health matters.
Yep.
And I was
I had this conversation with my neighbor.
I don't know how. And I'm beginning to see it even now, but I still, because for lots and lots of reasons, but, it's brutal.
It is. And it's so unhealthy. It's so unhealthy, and it does so much damage. Like our neighbor, who so the day we moved in, my boys, I hadn't even arrived at the house. I was still following Scott and the boys to the house. And when I got here, I freaked because the boys weren't here. So they were 3 and 7. And I was like, and Scott's like, oh, they're next door. Well, that made it worse because I'm like, next door? We've been here 5 minutes. What are you doing sending my children next door? Who's next door? Anyway, our neighbours, and so they've got a son who is now like my third son because our kids literally just went backwards and forwards over the fence for the past 14 years. And Jim and Joy are just, they're just the most beautiful people. And in 2018, Joy got stomach cancer. And that was massive. She had to, all the treatment. Anyway, in September, end of September, she started feeling a bit gross when she started eating. October, they found a mass in her esophagus. And I was talking to Jim yesterday. I've been taking food over for Jim and Jamie, and just meals for dinner. And we had a very deep conversation yesterday exactly about this. Of there's so much that affects our health. So much. Like, she's now in hospital. It's, her daughter's coming home from overseas. She's been living overseas. It's not great. It's, and he's like, it's too short. Like, so they bought a camper van. That was her dream, to just get in the camper van and go. Obviously now they can't go because they kept putting it off. There was things that just kept coming up and they're like, oh, we'll go at another time. Joy was always one of these people that puts every single person before herself. Everyone. And yeah, she's now in hospital and the cancer's returned, and yeah. And it's like, read that page. You are important. Like, if you need to wee, go and wee. Like, look after yourself. Like, this year has literally been scares of cancer and death with us. There's been all year. And I keep saying to Scott, and I go to bed every night just going, thank you for my health. Thank you for my family's health. Just, yeah. That's why, like, I've taken off 4 months at work of just going, I know how important these conversations are in my business and what I'm building. And I love the work that I do with the women in my business. And I want to expand on that, and I want to offer more, and because I can see the difference that it makes. It's not me, like, I don't do the work. It's the women that show up to do the work.
Yeah.
It's them taking their own responsibility. And like you said before, like, it's just having that safe space where it doesn't matter what you talk about. She's going to support you. She's going to make you accountable. She's going to cheer you on. She's going to push you. Like, I want to do that so deeply for so many more women, because I see the impact that it makes, not just in their business, but in their family. Changing that perception of hobby, where you have a really expensive hobby and you spend a fucking lot of money on cameras and printing and whatever, changing the mindset to, this is a business, this is what I'm building. The mindset changes, your perception changes, your goals change. You start showing up, you start selling your services, you start paying off your debt, you're putting money into your family, you have this incredible amount of faith and trust in yourself. Everything changes when you take responsibility for what you want.
Yeah. I mean, for me this year, I've just got to the point where I've looked at my own work and said to myself, there's no reason I shouldn't be making money.
No.
the response that I get from the work that I create, and I see the beauty in my own work, and I'm confident in the beauty in my own work. And and it's so hard to go, the only thing that's stopping me making money is me.
Yep. Yep.
And I absolutely agree in the health, and that it's having a business mentor, having someone alongside you, it's an investment. But if you look at it over the period of time that you have them helping you versus the amount of money that you can make, it, it quickly comes back. And it's like having a personal trainer and health coach, basically, for your business. That's essentially what it is. And an emotional, therapist. It's like all of those things rolled into one.
Yeah.
And yeah, there have been so many times when I've, turned up at my session and gone, oh, this, all that. And we're like, okay, well, let's focus on the positives. And I'm like, well, there's been this, and there's been this, and there's been this, and there's been this. And I've naturally fallen down the trap of going, this is not working, this is not selling, blah, blah, blah. But actually, like you say, switching that,
mindset, perception,
mindset and that perception of what you're creating and what you're building, and the relationships.
Changing your stories. Like we always default to what's not working.
Yeah.
We never look at, like, immediately if someone goes, how's, like, I always start with, how's your week? Like, what happened this week? How's your week? What happened this week or whatever. And when I had 3 ladies that kept signing up that were with me for a year. And at the beginning, it would always start with the negative. And then towards the end, they didn't even bother with the negative. It was like, well, this is what happened. And of course we touch on the negative or what's not working, or because you have to, because it needs to be looked at and questioned, and, we need to fix it. But when you start with, oh, yeah, like I actually did this, you come into it with a different mindset anyway. And then you can, your brain kind of opens up, your heart opens up, and then you're like, oh, yeah, well, this didn't work, but maybe, like, if I changed to this or did this, and you can see it from a different angle than coming in completely negatively. Yeah.
But I think the hard thing is, though, which we might have to end on, but that the last episode we talked about, the Cleo Wade talking about the poet, is that you don't ask questions when you're happy. And I think this is why. And I often feel that people think that maybe I'm quite negative, but it's because my creative brain is looking for problems to solve, and it's looking for, and I do tend to default to the hard stuff, because I'm like, okay, well, that is ugly or dark or whatever. How can I make it beautiful?
And the thing is
if we as creatives go around going, oh, everything's lovely and everything blah blah blah, then we probably wouldn't do any work. So actually it's such a challenge. It's like a double-edged sword, really, that we're working with. And I'm like, oh, I'm this person that walks around with a big black cloud over my head, but actually it's like, well, I'm kind of like tapping into that, because then that forces me, and that makes me grow and look for beauty. And
so much creativity comes from having to solve problems. And that's essentially what you're doing in your business. And that's what we're gonna have to end on, because we're way over now. But like, once you make that decision to go, okay, this is what I'm gonna do, this is the business I'm gonna build, you've got that opportunity when things aren't going great to be creative. And you've got that muscle memory of when things are going great, of going, okay, so how did that go great? What did I do? And then that's another set of questions again. Anyway, we need to go.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. We took it way, way, way past today.
We'd love to hear what you think. And if you text from the toilet.
Yes, let us know if you wee with your phone.
Melinda is absolutely horrified. She's like, that is disgusting. Yeah, can't wait. See you next time.
See you.